The meeting room on Harmony Point Space Station was huge. Commander Kim Dae-hyun sat quietly in the back corner, watching alien species argue with each other. His brown eyes moved from one speaker to another, but his face showed nothing. 15 years. That was how long humans had been part of the Galactic Coalition. Everyone still treated Earth like the new kid in school, the weird kid who didn't understand how things worked. The Vorthak Empire has made their choice clear, shouted Ambassador Thexeron, his blue skin turning darker with anger. The Altarian leader's forearms waved in the air. They want war with the Eldari Federation. We must act now. Murmurs filled the room. Kim counted 47 different alien species sitting around the giant circular table. Some looked scared, others looked angry, a few looked excited, like they wanted to watch a good fight. The Vorthak were bad news. Everyone knew that. They were tall, gray-skinned warriors who solved problems by hitting them hard. Their empire had grown bigger every year by taking what they wanted from weaker species. Now, they wanted the Kepler mining system. The Eldari had been mining there for 200 years. The Eldari were peaceful people who looked like tall, thin humans with silver hair. They made beautiful art and studied old books. They had never hurt anyone. We should send the full coalition. Fleet, said General Vorta, a massive creature that looked like a walking rock. Show the Vorthak that we are strong. That would start a war across the whole galaxy, replied Dr. Zenith, her green tentacles moving slowly. Many will die. We should talk to them first. Talk? Laughed Captain Rexmar, his sharp teeth showing. The Vorthak stopped talking when they sent 50 warships to Kepler. They want blood. Kim watched it all happen. He had seen this exact situation in the war games back on Earth. Scenario number 847B. The coalition would argue for 3 days. Some would want to fight. Others would want to talk. In the end, they would do nothing until it was too late. The Eldari would surrender or die. The Vorthak would win. Then other aggressive species would see that the coalition was weak. More wars would start. The galaxy would burn, but Earth had plans for this. Dr. Park Minji sat 2 seats away from Kim. She looked like a normal human scientist with her black hair tied back and simple clothes. But Kim knew she had studied every species in this room for 5 years. She knew their fears, their hopes, their weaknesses. She caught his eye and nodded slightly. Everything was going exactly as they had predicted. Perhaps, said Ambassador Quilnax in his high voice, we should ask the newest member what they think. His bug-like eyes turned to look at the human section. Earth has been quiet. What does humanity say about this crisis? The room went silent. 47 alien species turned to look at the small group of humans. Kim felt their stares. Some looked curious. Others looked amused. Most looked like they were waiting for the children to say something stupid. Ambassador Choi Hyun-woo stood up slowly. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been Earth's voice in the coalition for 10 years. The aliens liked him because he was polite and never caused trouble. Thank you for asking, Choi said in his calm voice. Humanity has heard all your concerns. This is indeed a serious situation. Yes, yes, said Ambassador Thexeron, his forearms crossed. But what will Earth do? Will you send ships to help the Eldari? Will you join our trade sanctions against the Vorthak? Choi smiled. Humanity will respond according to our established protocols. The room erupted in noise. Some aliens laughed. Others looked confused. Protocols? Shouted General Vorta. The Vorthak are about to destroy an entire civilization, and you talk about protocols? What protocols? Asked Dr. Zenith. Humans have been here 15 years. What protocols could you possibly have? Kim almost smiled. If only they knew. Captain Rexmar banged his fist on the table. This is why humans should not be in the coalition. You are too weak, too scared. When there is a fight, you hide behind words. Other species nodded. The humans were disappointing them again. Just like always. But Captain Lee Ji-won, sitting next to Kim, didn't look worried. She was a small woman, with short black hair and sharp eyes. Right now those eyes held a secret. She knew something the aliens didn't. Our protocols are simple, Choi continued. We study, we plan, we act when the time is right. The time is now, yelled Ambassador Thexaran. The Vorthak fleet will reach Eldari space in 6 days. If we don't move fast, it will be too late. Perhaps, said Choi, but perhaps not. The meeting continued for 3 more hours. The aliens argued and shouted. They made threats and promises. Some wanted immediate war. Others wanted to send messages asking the Vorthak to be nice. Through it all, the humans sat quietly. They asked no questions. They made no demands. They just watched and listened. Finally, the session ended. The aliens left in small groups, still arguing. The humans stayed behind. When the room was empty, Kim stood up and stretched. His back hurt from sitting so long. Think they bought it? Asked Captain Lee. Completely, said Dr. Park, gathering her notes. They think we're either cowards or fools. Good, said Ambassador Choi. Let them think that. It makes everything easier. Kim walked to the big window that showed space outside. Thousands of stars shone in the darkness. Somewhere, out there, the Vorthak war fleet was moving toward innocent people. But Kim wasn't worried. Earth had been ready for this day since they joined the coalition. Minji, he said without turning around, send the message to Earth Command. Tell them it's Scenario 847B. Authorization code, Delta 7. Dr. Park nodded and pulled out a small device. Her fingers moved quickly over the screen. Message sent, she said. Response time? 12 hours, said Kim. Then we start Phase 1. Captain Lee joined him at the window. Think it will work? It has to, Kim replied. Because if it doesn't, the galaxy burns. Behind them, Ambassador Choi was already making calls. Not to Earth. To certain species who had been quietly contacted months ago. Species who owed Earth small favors. Species who would soon understand why those favors mattered. The meeting was over. The aliens thought the humans had done nothing. They were wrong. The humans had done exactly what they came to do. They had listened. They had learned. And now they knew exactly how the coalition would fail to handle this crisis. But Earth wouldn't fail. Earth had plans. Kim looked at his watch. In 6 days, the Vorthak would reach Eldari space. But in 12 hours, Earth's real work would begin. The galaxy was about to learn something new about humanity. Something that would change everything. They were about to learn that humans didn't just plan for the battles they wanted to fight. They planned for the wars they needed to prevent. End of Part 1. 12 hours later, Kim Dae-hyun stood in the secret human command center hidden deep inside Harmony Point Station. The room was small and dark. Screens covered every wall, showing star maps, ship movements, and data streams from across the galaxy. Most aliens didn't know this room existed. They thought humans only had a small office for their ambassador. Report, Kim said as he entered. Colonel Yang Suman looked up from her main screen. She was a tall woman with serious eyes and short black hair. For 3 years she had run Earth's intelligence network in space. The aliens thought she was just a trade representative. The Vorthak fleet is moving exactly as predicted, Yang said. 57 warships, led by War Commander Grixtal. They'll reach the outer edge of Eldari space in 5 days. What about the coalition response? Kim asked. Dr. Kang Jinwoo turned around in his chair. He was a thin man with thick glasses who looked like he spent too much time reading. The aliens thought he was boring. They were wrong. His brain was one of the most dangerous weapons in the galaxy. The Coalition Council is still arguing, Kang said. The Altarians want to send a battle fleet. The Zanari want diplomatic talks. The Gorvani want trade sanctions. The Kelthans want to do nothing. Perfect, Kim said. They're following Pattern 7 exactly. Yang nodded. While they argue, 12 other species are watching closely. Our intelligence shows they're all planning their own aggressive moves if the coalition fails to stop the Vorthak. Kim felt cold. This was what Earth's analysts had feared most. The galaxy was like a pile of dry wood. One spark could burn everything. Show me the cascade map, he said. The main screen changed. Now it showed a web of connected lines spreading across a map of the galaxy. Each line was red. If the Vorthak succeed, Kang explained, the Morgani Empire will attack the Peaceful Worlds Alliance within 30 days. The Kresh Confederacy will invade the outer colonies. The Brakthar will restart their expansion into neutral space. More red lines appeared on the map. The Hexmari see this as their chance to take back the systems they lost 50 years ago. The Vorthak's allies, the Grimtalk, are already moving ships toward the Crystal Nebula. And if any of these wars start, the map exploded with red lines. Almost every system in the galaxy was connected to a potential conflict zone. Total galactic. War within 6 months, Yang finished. Estimated casualties, 47 billion beings. Kim stared at the screen. The other coalition species couldn't see this pattern. They were too focused on the immediate crisis. They saw one war. Humans saw the end of galactic civilization. The beautiful thing, said Dr. Park Minji from across the room, is that none of them realize they're predictable. She was studying psychological profiles on her screen. Hundreds of alien leaders, their fears and desires mapped out in detail. War Commander Grixtal thinks he's a great military genius, Park continued, but he always follows the same pattern. Overwhelming force, quick victory, then offer mercy to make himself look noble. What about his supporters back home? Kim asked. The Vorthak High Council is split, Park said. Half want this war, half think it's too risky. Grixtal needs a fast, clean victory to keep his job. If the war gets messy, his enemies will remove him. Kim nodded. Every species had internal politics. Every leader had weaknesses. Earth had spent 15 years learning about all of them. The coalition species are even easier to read, Park said. Ambassador Thexran of the Altarians wants to look strong because his people are voting on his leadership next month. General Vortag of the Gorvani is tired of peace and wants one last glorious battle before he retires. Dr. Zenith of the Zanari? Kim asked. Terrified of war because her planet is still recovering from their civil conflict 20 years ago. She'll do anything to avoid more fighting. Kim walked to another screen showing economic data. What about the financial cascade? Yang pulled up new charts. If war starts, trade routes will collapse. The merchant guilds will lose trillions. Food shipments to 14 systems will stop. 3 different species depend on imports to survive. The Kelthans especially, added Kang. Their homeworld can't grow enough food for their population. If the trade routes close, they'll face starvation within months. Which means they'll have to join the war to reopen the routes, Kim said. Adding more chaos, the pieces were all connected. Economics, politics, military movements, resource needs. One small war would trigger a cascade of disasters across the galaxy. But other species couldn't see the big picture. They focused on their own problems and ignored everything else. How long do we have? Kim asked. The Vorthak reach Eldari space in 5 days, Yang said. The coalition will probably make a decision in 4 days. If they choose wrong or if they're too slow, the cascade starts. And if they do nothing? The Eldari surrender in 6 days. The other aggressive species see that the coalition won't fight. Wars start within weeks. Kim closed his eyes and thought. 47 billion lives hanging in the balance. The future of galactic peace depending on what happened in the next few days. Initiate cascade prevention protocol, he said finally. Yang and Kang looked at each other. They had trained for this moment, but it was still scary. Sir, Yang said, carefully, that's a level 7 intervention. We'll be manipulating the entire galactic political system. I know, Kim said. But if we don't act, there won't be a galactic political system left to worry about. He walked to the communication console and entered his authorization codes. Deep in Earth's strategic command, computers would receive his signal. Plans that had been prepared for years would finally be put into action. Dr. Park, I need psychological profiles on every coalition leader updated within the hour. Focus on pressure points and motivational triggers. Already done, sir, Park said with a small smile. Colonel Yang, activate all intelligence assets. I want to know what every aggressive species is planning, hour by hour. Our people are already in position, Yang replied. Dr. Kang, run the economic models again. Show me exactly how to prevent the financial cascade. The reports are ready for your review, Kang said. Kim looked around the room. His team was ready. Earth was ready. They had spent 15 years preparing for this exact moment. The aliens thought humans were weak because they planned instead of fighting. They were about to learn the difference between weakness and patience. Phase 1 begins now, Kim announced. Dr. Park, send subtle psychological pressure to the coalition leaders. Make them doubt their current strategies. Colonel Yang, have our people start spreading carefully chosen rumors. Dr. Kang, release your economic analysis to the financial networks. What about the Vorthak? Asked Yang. Kim smiled for the first time in days. It wasn't a nice smile. The Vorthak think they're hunters, he said. They're about to learn their prey. He looked at the cascade map one more time. All those red lines, representing potential wars and billions of deaths. Soon those lines would start turning green. The galaxy was about to see what humans did best. Not fight wars, but prevent them. The real work had just begun. End of Part 2. 3 days had passed since Kim Dae-hyun started Phase 1. The Coalition Council was still arguing. The Vorthak fleet was still moving toward Eldari space. Everything looked the same. But across the galaxy, small things were starting to change. Captain, Lee Ji-won stood on the bridge of her ship, the Soul Guardian. Around her, 15 other human vessels moved in perfect formation through space. To anyone watching, it looked like a normal training exercise. Navigation. Set course for the Nexus jump point, Lee ordered. Sir, said Lieutenant Commander Bae Sung-won, that will put us directly along the main trade route between Vorthak space and their allies. I know, Lee said calmly. We're conducting training exercises. Nothing wrong with that. Bae nodded, but his eyes showed he understood. The Nexus jump point was where the Vorthak expected supply ships from their allies. If human ships happened to be doing training exercises there, those supply ships might be delayed. Delayed ships meant the Vorthak war fleet would have to wait for fuel and food. Across the galaxy, 5 other human fleets were doing similar training exercises, all in places that would accidentally make things difficult for aggressive species. Meanwhile, on the trade station Golden Exchange, Dr. Kang Jinwoo was giving a boring lecture about economic trends to a small group of alien merchants. As you can see, Kang said, pointing to charts on his screen, war typically causes a 67% drop in cross-sector trade within the first month. The merchants looked worried. Most of them had never thought about how war affected business. A Kelthani trader raised his hand. Dr. Kang, what about food imports? My people depend on grain from the outer worlds. Excellent question, Kang replied. Food shipments usually stop completely during conflicts. Historical data shows that trade blockades begin within days of war declarations. The room went quiet. Several merchants started making calls on their communication devices. Within hours, worried traders were contacting their governments. The Kelthan Council received 17 urgent messages about potential food shortages. The Gorvani Assembly heard from mining companies afraid of losing profits. Economic pressure was building in the right places. On the diplomatic station, Peace, Harbor, Professor Lim Yoonji was teaching a class about historical conflicts. Her students were young diplomats from various species. The Great War of 2298 started with a simple border dispute, she explained. 2 species fighting over one small system. But within 6 months, 47 different worlds were burning. Oh, young Altarian student raised her hand. Professor, how did such a small conflict become so large? Cascading effects, Lim answered. Each species thought they could gain something from the chaos. Instead of stopping the first war, they started their own fights. The result was devastation for everyone. The students took careful notes. These young diplomats would return to their homeworlds with new ideas about preventing wars instead of winning them. But the most important work was happening in places nobody was watching. On the mining world of Kepler-7, a Vorthak supply depot suddenly had computer problems. Their inventory system crashed. making it impossible to load supply ships quickly. The repairs would take days. On the trade world of Nexus Prime, shipping schedules got mixed up. Cargo meant for Vorthak allies was accidentally sent to the wrong destinations. Very sorry. Just a computer error. On the communication relay station, Star Voice, messages between Vorthak commanders and their allies kept getting delayed. Solar interference, the technicians said. Nothing they could do about it. Each problem was small. Each delay was minor. But together they were slowly strangling the Vorthak war effort. Colonel Yang Suman monitored it all from her command center. Her people were in position across the galaxy. Some worked as traders, others as technicians. A few were teachers or scientists. All of them were helping Earth's plan work. Status report, Kim said as he entered the command center. Phase 1 is working perfectly, Yang replied. The Vorthak supply chain is experiencing delays. Their allies are starting to worry about economic costs. Coalition species are beginning to question their current strategies. What about the psychological pressure? Kim asked. Dr. Park looked up from her screens. Ambassador Thexeron is having doubts about military action. His advisors are showing him economic reports that make war look expensive. General Vortug is frustrated that the coalition can't agree on anything. Dr. Zenith is more afraid than ever. And War Commander Grixtal, getting angry, Park said with satisfaction. His supply ships are late. His allies are asking hard questions about costs. He's under pressure to either attack immediately or call off the whole operation. Kim nodded. Everything was going according to plan. But the most important part was just beginning. Initiate Phase 2, he ordered. Across the galaxy, Professor Lim's diplomatic students were having private conversations with their mentors. Young diplomats were suggesting new approaches to the crisis. Maybe instead of choosing between war and surrender, there were other options. Dr. Kang's economic reports were showing up on financial networks everywhere. Traders were reading about how wars destroyed profits. Business leaders were calling their governments to demand peaceful solutions. Captain Lee's training exercises were being noticed by military observers. The human fleet formations looked defensive, not aggressive. But they also looked very well organized and professional. Other species were starting to wonder what else humans might be capable of. On Harmony Point Station, Ambassador Choi received a visit from Ambassador Thexron. Choi, the Altarian said, his forearms crossed nervously. I need to ask you something. These reports about economic damage from wars, did your people write them? Dr. Kang writes many reports, Choi replied, carefully. He studies economic trends, it's his job. But the timing seems convenient. Choi smiled. Good information is always convenient, my friend. The question is what we do with it. Thexeron looked frustrated. The Council wants to send battle fleets to help the Eldari. But the economic reports make that look very expensive. My people are asking hard questions. What kind of questions? Whether we can afford a war, whether it's worth the cost, whether there might be better solutions. Those sound like good questions, Choi said. After Thexeron left, Choi made a secure call to Kim. Phase 2 is working. The coalition leaders are starting to doubt their original plans. Excellent, Kim replied. What about the Vorthak? War Commander Grixtal is under increasing pressure. His own people are questioning the wisdom of this attack. If we can delay him for another 48 hours, his political support might collapse. Kim looked at the main display screen. The red lines representing potential wars were starting to fade. Some had already turned yellow, meaning the conflicts were becoming less likely. But they weren't green yet. The crisis wasn't over. Dr. Park, Kim said, increase psychological pressure on Grixtal. Make him understand that this war will destroy his career. Colonel Yang, have our people create more delays in his supply chain. Dr. Kang, release the economic analysis showing how much this war will cost the Vorthak Empire. Sir, said Lieutenant Commander Bay, who had joined them from Captain Lee's ship. What if Grixtal decides to attack immediately before his supplies run out? Kim smiled. Then we move to Phase 3, which is something the galaxy has never seen before, a solution nobody expects. The room went quiet. Everyone knew Phase 3 was the most dangerous part of the plan. If it failed, everything failed. How much time do we have? Kim asked. 36 hours until the Vorthak reach Eldari space, Yang replied. Then we better get started, Kim said. He looked around the room at his team. They had come so far. The cascade of wars was being prevented, piece by piece. But the hardest part was still ahead. End of Part 3. 24 hours before the Vorthak fleet would reach Eldari space, something impossible happened. War Commander Grixtal stared at the reports on his command screen. His gray face was darker than usual, showing his anger and confusion. What, do you mean 17 species? He growled at his intelligence officer. Sir, our scouts report 17 different coalition fleets moving toward the Eldari system. They're not coming to fight us. They're coming to help civilians. Grixtal's clawed hands gripped his chair. Help civilians, what does that mean? They call it a humanitarian aid mission, sir. Ships from the Altarians, Zanari, Gorvani, Kelthans, and 13 other species. They say they want to protect innocent people during the conflict. On his main screen, Grixtal could see the impossible sight. Ships from species that had been arguing for days were now working together. Their fleets surrounded the Eldari system like a protective wall. But these weren't warships. They were medical vessels, supply transports, and evacuation craft. They weren't there to fight, they were there to save lives. Who organized this? Grixtal demanded. The humans, sir. But we don't understand how. 3 days ago, the coalition couldn't agree on anything. Now they're all working together. Grixtal felt cold fear in his chest. This changed everything. He couldn't attack the Eldari system without also attacking 17 other coalition species. That would mean war with the entire galaxy. But if he retreated now, he would look weak. His enemies back home would destroy his career. On Harmony Point Station, the Coalition Council was in emergency session. But for the first time in days, nobody was shouting. Ambassador Thexran stood at the podium, his forearms spread wide. I don't understand how this happened, he said. Yesterday we couldn't agree on anything. Today we have the largest humanitarian mission in galactic history. General Vorta nodded slowly. My fleet commanders report perfect coordination. Every ship knows exactly where to go and what to do. Someone planned this very carefully. Doctor, Zenith's green tentacles moved nervously. But who? We never voted on this mission. We never even discussed it. All eyes turned to the human section. Ambassador Choi sat calmly, his hands folded. Ambassador Choi, said Thexran. Did humanity organize this mission? We provided some coordination assistance, Choi replied carefully. Coordination assistance? General Vortog's rocky face showed confusion. This operation involves 847 ships from 17 different species. The logistics alone are incredibly complex. Humans are good at logistics, Choi said simply. But how did you know we would all agree to this? Asked Dr. Zenith. 3 days ago, we were ready to let the Eldari face the Vorthak alone. Kim Dae-hyun stood up from his seat in the back. It was time to tell the truth. Because we knew you would change your minds, he said. The room went silent. All the alien representatives stared at the human commander they had ignored for so long. What do you mean? Asked Thexran. Kim walked to the center of the room. Ambassador Thexran, you changed your mind about military action when you saw the economic report showing how much war would cost your people. Thexran's blue skin went pale. How did you know that? General Vorta, you decided to support humanitarian aid instead of aggressive action when your own officers suggested it would be more honorable. Vorta's rocky face cracked with surprise. My officers... But how... Dr. Zenith, you embraced this mission because it gave you a way to help the Eldari without risking another war. Dr. Zenith's tentacles stopped moving. She stared at Kim with new understanding. Kim continued. Every species in this room changed their position for reasons that made sense to them. But those reasons didn't appear by accident. He pulled out a small device and activated it. A holographic display appeared, showing a complex web of connections spreading across the galaxy. The economic reports that influenced your decisions were written by our analysts. The suggestions from your officers came from ideas planted by our diplomatic students. The humanitarian mission was planned months ago, waiting for the right moment. The alien representatives looked shocked. Some looked angry. Others looked afraid. You manipulated us, whispered Ambassador Thexran. We guided you toward better choices, Kim corrected. Choices that prevent a galactic war. Lieutenant Commander Bay stepped forward with a thick document folder. This is Contingency Plan 847B, he announced. Earth's complete response to the exact situation we're facing now. He placed the folder on the central table. It was enormous. 7 pages, Bay continued. Every detail of the current crisis was predicted. Every possible response from every species was calculated. Every solution was planned in advance. General Vortag leaned forward. You're saying you knew this would happen? We knew something like this would happen, Kim replied. We didn't know it would be the Vorthak attacking the Eldari, but we knew that eventually some aggressive species would test the Coalition's strength. We prepared for that day. Dr. Kang appeared on a communication screen from the Human Command Center. We have similar contingency plans for 1,247 different crisis scenarios, he reported. Military conflicts, economic collapses, natural disasters, plague outbreaks, and first contact situations with new species. The alien representatives looked stunned. Dr. Zenith spoke first, her voice very quiet. How long have you been planning this? Since the day we joined the Coalition, Kim answered. We studied every species, every government, every leader. We learned your histories, your fears, your dreams. We mapped out how you would react to different situations. And you never told us? Asked Thexaran, sounding hurt. Would you have listened? Kim asked back. For 15 years you've treated humans like children. You thought we were too weak and too scared to matter. We let you think that because it made our real work easier. Captain Lee's voice came through the communication system. War Commander Grixtal is requesting emergency talks with Coalition leadership. His fleet has stopped advancing. Kim nodded. Patch him through. The main screen activated, showing the angry face of the Vorthak commander. This is treachery, Grixtal snarled. You humans have poisoned the minds of the Coalition against us. We've done nothing treacherous, Kim replied calmly. We've simply helped other species understand the true cost of war. My supply lines are sabotaged. My allies question their support. My own people doubt this mission. Because war is expensive and dangerous, Kim said. Perhaps it's time to consider other solutions. Grixtal's face showed pure rage. But behind the anger, Kim could see fear. The Vorthak commander was trapped. He couldn't attack without fighting the entire galaxy. He couldn't retreat without losing his career. What do you want? Grixtal asked finally. Peace, Kim replied, and a new way of solving problems. Ambassador Choi stepped forward. The Coalition offers mediation. Neutral arbitrators will examine the Kepler system dispute. Both sides will present their cases. A fair solution will be found. And if I refuse, Kim gestured to the screen showing the humanitarian fleet. Then you attack 847 ships from 17 different species who are only trying to save innocent lives. How will that look to the galaxy? Grixtal stared at the screen for a long moment. His military mind was calculating odds and outcomes. Finally, his shoulders sagged in defeat. I will consider your offer, he said. The communication ended. The Coalition Council sat in stunned silence. After a few minutes, Ambassador Thexaran spoke. You prevented a galactic war. We prevented this galactic war, Kim corrected. Tomorrow there might be another crisis. We'll be ready for that one, too. How many contingency plans do you have? Asked General Vortag. 1 week later, the galaxy was a different place. The Vorthak Empire had agreed to arbitration. War Commander Grixtal was removed from power by his own people, who were embarrassed by his failure. The Eldari Federation was safe. The Kepler system, dispute would be solved by neutral judges instead of weapons. But the real change was bigger than one prevented war. In the Coalition Council chambers, representatives from 47 species sat around the Great Table. But this time, they weren't arguing. They were listening. Dr. Park Minji stood at the center podium, speaking calmly to the assembled aliens. "For 15 years, you've seen humans as the weak members of the Coalition," she said. "You thought we were too scared to fight and too simple to understand galactic politics." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Some species looked ashamed. Others looked curious. "You were wrong about why we seemed weak," Park continued. "Humans aren't afraid of fighting, we're afraid of unnecessary fighting. We don't avoid conflict because we're cowards. We avoid it because we understand the true cost." She activated a holographic display showing the cascade analysis from a week ago. While you were focused on the Vorthak threat, we saw 12 other species preparing for their own wars. If the first conflict had started, the entire galaxy would have burned within 6 months. 47 billion beings would have died. The display showed the red lines that had almost connected every system in the galaxy to violence. "Other species plan for the battles they want to fight," Park said. "Humans plan for the wars we don't want to happen." Ambassador Thexran raised one of his 4 hands. "Dr. Park, how many threats have you prevented that we never knew about?" Park smiled sadly. "In the past 5 years? 17 potential wars, 3 economic collapses, 2 plague outbreaks, and 1 attempted genocide." Shocked gasps filled the chamber. "You stopped a genocide?" whispered Dr. Zenith. "The Kresh Confederacy was planning to eliminate the peaceful Worlds Alliance," Park explained. "We provided the Alliance with defensive technology and convinced the Kresh that the attack would fail. The Kresh decided it wasn't worth the risk." "We never heard about this," said General Vortog. "Because prevention is quiet," Park replied. "When you stop a war before it starts, nobody knows there was going to be a war." Kim Dae-hyun joined her at the podium. "This is what humans do best. We don't just solve problems. We solve problems before they become problems." He gestured to the holographic display. "Every contingency plan we create makes the galaxy a little bit safer. Every crisis we prevent saves millions of lives." Captain Lee's voice came through the communication system. "Sir, we have a situation developing in the Outer Rim. The Brakthar are moving ships toward neutral space." "Contingency Plan 234C," Kim replied without hesitation. "Activate economic pressure protocols and position humanitarian fleets." "Already in progress, sir." Kim turned back to the Coalition Council. "That's how it works. We see the problem coming. We have a plan ready. We act before anyone gets hurt." Ambassador Choi stepped forward with a large document. "The Coalition has asked Earth to share our contingency planning methods. This is our proposal." He placed the document on the central table. Unlike the single crisis plan from before, this one was much larger. "The Department of Galactic Contingency Planning," Choi announced. "A new coalition organization led by Earth but including representatives from every species. Our job will be to predict problems and prevent disasters before they happen." "What kind of problems?" asked Ambassador Thexran. Dr. Kang appeared on the communication screen. "We have contingency plans for contact with new alien species, plans for natural disasters that could affect multiple worlds, plans for economic problems that could destroy trade networks. We even have plans for technological disasters," added Colonel Yang from her command center. "What happens if artificial intelligence becomes dangerous? What if someone invents a weapon that could destroy entire star systems? What if we discover the galaxy is going to be invaded by beings from another universe?" The alien representatives looked amazed and a little scared. "You've planned for invasion from another universe?" asked General Vorta. "Contingency Plan 1847X, Kim replied. "It's not likely, but it's possible. If it happens, we'll be ready." Dr. Zenith raised her tentacles. What about the end of everything? The heat death of the universe?" Kim and his team exchanged glances. "Contingency Plan Omega," said Dr. Kang quietly. We're still working on that one. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the possibility that humans were planning for the end of the universe was overwhelming. Finally, Ambassador Thexran spoke. "How do you do it? How do you think so far ahead?" Dr. Park answered. "Because we have to. Human history is full of wars that could have been prevented, disasters that could have been avoided. We learned that the best way to protect people is to see danger coming and stop it early. We're not the strongest species in the galaxy," Kim added. "We're not the smartest or the fastest or the most advanced. But we might be the best at learning from mistakes." Captain Lee entered the chamber in person. "The Brakthar situation is resolved," she reported. "They have agreed to joint development of the disputed territory instead of military occupation." "How long did that take?" asked General Vortar. 47 minutes, Lee replied. The alien representatives looked stunned. Again, a potential war had been prevented in less than an hour. "This is why the galaxy needs the Department of Galactic Contingency Planning," Kim said. "Not just to prevent wars, but to prevent suffering, to make sure that beings across the galaxy can live in peace and safety." "What do you need from us?" asked Ambassador Thexran. "Trust," Kim replied, "and cooperation. Our contingency plans work because we understand how different species think and act. The better we know each other, the better we can protect each other." "You want to study us more," said Dr. Zenith. "We want to understand you better," Park corrected. "Understanding prevents fear. Fear causes most conflicts in the galaxy." Ambassador Choi opened the proposal document. "The department will have representatives from every coalition species. Humans will share our planning methods. Other species will share their knowledge and perspectives. Together we'll build a safer galaxy." The vote was unanimous. Every species agreed to support the new department. As the session ended, Kim stood at the great window looking out at the stars. Dr. Park joined him. "Think it will work?" she asked. "It has to," Kim replied. "Because the alternative is too terrible to imagine." "What's our next crisis?" Park asked. Kim checked his communication device. "Long-range sensors have detected something unusual at the edge of the galaxy. Unknown energy signatures moving toward inhabited space." "First contact situation? Maybe. Or maybe something worse. Dr. Kang is running analysis now." Park nodded. "At least we'll be ready." "We'll be ready," Kim agreed. In the depths of space, human ships moved quietly to their positions. On worlds across the galaxy, human agents gathered information and built relationships. In command centers hidden from public view, analysts studied data and prepared solutions. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but for the first time in its history, someone was watching for those dangers. Someone was preparing to meet them before they could cause harm. Humanity had found its place in the galactic community, not as warriors or conquerors, but as guardians. Protectors who worked in the shadows to keep the light burning. The stars held many mysteries and many threats, but they also held hope. Because Earth's contingency plans were ready for all of them. End of Part 5. The end. This concludes the story. Earth's contingency plans stunned the entire galaxy. A tale of how humanity's greatest strength isn't the ability to fight wars, but the wisdom to prevent them.